Chapter 1. The Struggle. Welcome to Inspiring English, the place where English is not only grammar and rules, but a journey of courage, change, and second chances, where we learn to trust our voice again and turn small daily effort into real progress. Today, I want to share a true story, my story, and maybe it will feel like yours too. My name is Jake. I'm 26, from Brazil, and just 5 months ago I couldn't say even one full sentence in English. Not, "How are you?" Not, "What's your name?" Because every time I tried, my mind went blank and my tongue felt heavy, like I was walking with chains around my words. I love technology. I worked hard as a software engineer. And my dream was to join a big international company, travel the world, learn from the best, and give my parents a better life. Then one morning an email arrived. "Congratulations, you are selected for an interview." And my heart beat so loud I could hear it in my ears. I dressed carefully, opened my laptop, and 3 smiling faces appeared on Zoom. They spoke fast, like a movie on double speed, and when they asked, "Jake, can you tell us about yourself and your experience?" I froze, because my brain knew the answer but my mouth would not move. The only sounds that came out were, yes, I am software. I do coding. Very good. And the silence after that line cut through me like a knife. The interview ended with a polite smile. "Thank you for your time." And I sat staring at the blank screen, understanding I had failed, not because I wasn't smart or skilled, but because I couldn't speak English. I walked outside in the cool evening air and felt small, invisible. For years I had told myself, "I don't need English. My work is enough." But that night, the truth stood in front of me like a locked door, and I didn't have the key. At home, my mom asked how it went, and I just shook my head. Later, lying in bed, I watched the ceiling and thought about the life I wanted on the other side of one language. And a quiet voice inside me said, "You can learn. Start again." The next morning I looked into the mirror and saw tired eyes, but behind them a decision, and I whispered, "Enough. No more excuses." Then opened a notebook and wrote, "Day 1, the day everything changed," followed by 3 lines, "I failed today. Failure is a lesson. Tomorrow I start again." I didn't have a teacher, a big budget, or a perfect plan, but I had a promise. I pressed play on a short English video, listened without understanding everything, repeated what I heard even when it sounded strange, and felt a spark because I was finally moving. Doubt still knocked. What if I fail again? What if people laugh? Yet the memory of that painful silence pushed me forward, and I realized nothing hurts more than a dream you abandon. So I chose discipline over fear, tiny steps over big excuses, and told myself, if I can learn to code, I can learn to speak. In those first days, I measured wins in breaths. 1 brave sentence, 1 clear word, 1 minute longer than yesterday. And each night I read my promise, I will learn English, no excuses, until it felt like a seed growing roots. My journey didn't begin in a classroom. It began in that raw moment when I decided to stand up after falling. Because sometimes the worst failure becomes the beginning of your best story. And that is how my struggle turned into a new path. 1 honest step at a time, with you here beside me, learning to believe again. Chapter 2. The Realization. At first, I thought the answer was simple: join a class, pay some money, and everything would change. So I did. I joined an online English course with shiny advertisements and smiling teachers who promised fluency in 3 months. I paid a lot of money, hoping this time it would be different. The first week was exciting: new lessons, colorful slides, and grammar charts everywhere. But soon, I noticed something strange. I wasn't speaking. I was filling blanks, memorizing rules, and repeating the same old phrases. This is a pen, that is a table. After every class, I felt tired, not better. My notebook was full, but my mouth was still empty. 3 months later, I tried to talk to a foreign colleague online. I wanted to say, "I worked on the new software update yesterday," but all that came out was silence and panic. That moment hit me like a wave. I realized something no teacher had told me. Learning English is not about how many words you know. It's about how you use them. I had hundreds of words trapped in my head, but none ready on my tongue. English was not living inside me. It was sleeping inside a book. That night, I sat in my room thinking, maybe the problem wasn't English itself. Maybe the problem was how I was learning it. I remembered my interview failure, the pain, the silence, and the shame. I didn't want to feel that way again. I didn't want to hide behind, "I understand, but I can't speak." So I asked myself one question. What if I stop learning English the traditional way and start living it? That thought changed everything. It was like someone turned on a light in a dark room. I realized I didn't need a teacher to give me permission to speak. I didn't need a classroom to practice. The world could be my classroom, and my voice could be my textbook. From that moment, I decided to build my own plan, my 5-month journey. No teachers, no grammar books, no long lists of vocabulary that I would forget the next day, just real English, every single day. I took out my notebook again, the same one I used to write day 1 after my interview failure. I opened a fresh page and wrote, Day 31, The Realization. Under it, I wrote one line. From now on, I will learn English by living it. That simple sentence became my rule. I didn't want to study English anymore. I wanted to use it, feel it, breathe it. I started by asking myself what I really wanted from this language. I didn't care about passing tests or earning certificates. I wanted connection, to understand people, to express my ideas, to open doors that were once locked. English, I realized, is not a subject. It's a tool, a bridge. It connects you to the world, and if you can use it, you can go anywhere. So I made a small plan, not a complicated one. I would learn English through life, not lessons. I would practice every day, even if it was just 10 minutes. I would focus on one thing, speaking. I wanted my tongue to move faster than my fear. I began small. I looked around my room and started naming things out loud. This is a chair. This is a desk. My phone is on the table. At first, it sounded silly, but soon it felt natural. I started talking to myself while doing chores, describing what I was doing in simple English. When I cooked breakfast, I said, I am cutting the bread, the eggs are hot. When I took a shower, I said, the water is warm, I feel relaxed. I wasn't just learning words, I was building confidence. Then I changed my phone language to English. Every notification, every setting, every message became a mini lesson. I stopped translating everything into Portuguese. I forced my brain to see the world through English words. And slowly, the fog inside my head started to clear. It wasn't easy. There were days when I wanted to quit, when I felt stupid repeating simple phrases. But each time, I remembered the interview, that silence, that pain, and I told myself, this time, I will win. I realized something even deeper. I had always waited for someone to teach me. But learning is not about waiting. It's about moving. The moment you stop waiting for the perfect teacher, the perfect method, or the perfect moment, that's when real learning begins. So I became my own teacher. Every mistake I made was a lesson. Every sentence I spoke, even broken ones, was a victory. I didn't need a classroom anymore because my life had become one. One night, I was walking home listening to an English podcast. The host said, "You don't learn to swim by reading a book. You learn by getting into the water." That sentence stayed in my head. I thought, that's it. That's exactly how English works. You don't learn by thinking about English. You learn by using it, even if you're scared, even if you make mistakes. From that day, I promised myself something new. Every single day, I would touch English in some way, speak it, hear it, write it, or read it, but never ignore it. I started to live with English like it was a friend I saw every day. And just like with any friend, the more time we spent together, the closer we became. That was my realization, the moment my journey truly began. I understood that fluency is not a magic gift. It's a habit, built drop by drop, word by word, day by day. The secret was never grammar or expensive lessons. The secret was me. My choice to keep going, my courage to sound wrong, my belief that one day those small efforts would become a voice that could finally say everything I wanted to say. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. Chapter 3. The Mistakes. Before everything started to work. I failed many times. I made so many mistakes that I almost gave up. But now I know those mistakes were not the end. They were the beginning. Maybe you're making them too. And if you are, it's okay, because I made them first. I want to tell you about each one, so you can skip the pain and move faster than I did. The first mistake I made was thinking I needed perfect grammar before I could speak. I believed that one day, when I finally learned every tense, every rule, I would be ready. But that day never came. I spent months studying grammar books, repeating sentences like, "He has been going to school since 2010, and, if I had known, I would have gone." They sounded good on paper. But when someone asked me a simple question like, "What did you do today?" I froze. My brain tried to remember rules instead of ideas. It was like trying to dance while reading a manual. I realized perfection kills progress. You don't learn to speak English by waiting for the perfect moment. You learn by speaking through the imperfect ones. I remember one day I was at a coffee shop and met a tourist from Canada. I wanted to talk, but fear stopped me. I thought, what if I make a grammar mistake? The man smiled, waiting for me to answer, and I just stood there, silent. Later, I walked home feeling ashamed. That night, I told myself something that changed me. I don't need perfect English to communicate. I just need courage. So from then on, I started speaking even when I wasn't ready. And something amazing happened. People still understood me. They smiled, helped me, and never laughed. That's when I learned broken English is better than no English. The second mistake was memorizing word lists. I thought if I learned 1,000 words, I'd become fluent. So I bought a big notebook and started writing down every new word I found. Apple, table, opportunity, responsibility. I filled pages and pages. But when someone asked me to describe my weekend, all those words disappeared. It was like they never existed. I realized words are not soldiers waiting for orders. They're friends you must use often to keep alive. So instead of lists, I started learning phrases, small, living pieces of real conversation. Not responsibility, but take responsibility. Not decision, but make a decision. I began to see how English really worked, like a puzzle of small natural pieces that connect through use, not memorization. The third mistake was studying too much and speaking too little. I used to think learning meant sitting at my desk for hours, reading, writing notes, and watching videos silently. But when I met real people, my mouth didn't move, my head was full, but my voice was empty. I was like a musician who knew theory but never touched an instrument. So I changed my approach. I decided to study less and speak more. Every time I learned something new, I said it out loud. I didn't care if it sounded weird. I learned that speaking is not the final test. It's the training itself. The more I used my voice, the stronger it became. I also realized that listening without speaking is like breathing in without breathing out. You fill your lungs, but soon you suffocate. So I made a rule. After every video, I had to repeat what I heard. If I watched a short clip, I paused and imitated the speaker. If I read a paragraph, I tried to retell it in my own words. It was slow at first, but my confidence started to grow like a seed watered every day. The fourth mistake was fear, being afraid to sound silly. I can still remember that feeling, standing in front of a mirror, trying to practice, but laughing at my own accent. I sounded strange to myself, and that made me stop. I thought people would laugh too, so I waited, always telling myself, not today, maybe when I'm better. But that day never arrived because I never gave myself a chance. I learned that silence is worse than mistakes. At least mistakes can teach you something. Silence only teaches you regret. One night, I was talking to myself in English when my sister walked by and laughed. I felt embarrassed for a second, but then I smiled. I realized she wasn't laughing because of my English. She was laughing because I was brave enough to try. From that day, I promised myself never to stop speaking just because of fear. And you know what? The more I spoke, the less I cared. Fear slowly disappeared. There was also another hidden mistake I didn't see at first, trying to compare myself to others. I watched YouTubers, classmates, and friends who spoke fluently, and I thought, I'll never sound like them. That thought killed my motivation. But then I realized I was comparing my beginning to someone else's middle. Everyone starts small. Even native speakers were once children learning one word at a time. I stopped comparing and started celebrating small wins. My first conversation, my first joke in English, My first time thinking in English without translating. Those small moments became fuel. When I look back, I see that every mistake taught me something valuable. Grammar mistakes taught me to speak freely. Memorization mistakes taught me to use real phrases. Overstudying taught me to open my mouth. Fear taught me courage. And comparing taught me patience. Mistakes weren't my enemy. They were my teachers. So now, when someone asks me, how can I speak better English? I always say, make more mistakes, but make them fast, make them proudly, and learn from each one. Because English is not about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to try again tomorrow. That's the truth I learned the hard way, the truth I wish someone had told me earlier. Mistakes don't stop your journey. They are your journey. Every wrong word brings you closer to the right one. Every awkward moment builds your strength. Every stumble teaches you balance. And when you stop being afraid of mistakes, that's when you truly start to grow. Chapter 4. The Change. Training Process. So here's what I did. Step by step. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't magic. It was a simple system that I followed every single day with patience, discipline, and belief. At first, it was hard. My tongue was heavy, my brain was slow, and my confidence was low. But day by day, something inside me began to change. My voice grew stronger. My sentences came faster. My fear got smaller. This was the process that transformed me. The first thing I did, I called it the survival sentences. I sat at my desk one morning and wrote 50 short sentences that I needed in real life, things I could actually use. Can you repeat that, please? I don't understand. I'm learning English. Can I have a coffee? Where is the bus stop? They were simple, but they were my tools for survival. I didn't care about fancy vocabulary or long grammar rules. I just wanted to survive in conversation. Every morning, I read these sentences out loud 10 times. At first, I sounded robotic, like a machine reading from a script. But after a few days, I noticed something amazing. The words started to flow naturally. They stopped feeling like English. They felt like me. After 1 week, I could say them without thinking. They became automatic, like breathing. Then came step 2, talk to yourself. It sounds crazy, I know, but this was one of the most powerful things I ever did. I turned my daily life into my classroom. When I cooked breakfast, I said, I'm making eggs. When I walked outside, I said, the weather is hot. When I washed dishes, I said, the water is cold, but the bubbles feel nice. At first, I laughed at myself. It felt weird, like I was losing my mind. But soon, something changed. My brain stopped translating from Portuguese to English. It started to think in English. My inner voice switched languages. That's when I realized I didn't need a teacher around me. I could be my own conversation partner every minute of every day. After that, I started using step 3, the Q&A method. I had learned many English questions before, but now I use them to train my mind. Every morning, I asked myself simple questions. What did you do today? What are you going to do tomorrow? What do you like to eat? Then I answered again and again, trying to add more detail each time. I worked. I worked on my project. I worked on my project for 3 hours. I worked on my project for 3 hours. Then I took a short break. It was like building a tower, one brick at a time. My answers grew longer, my confidence grew stronger, and my sentences became smoother. I didn't just practice words, I practiced speed, rhythm, and natural flow. The Q&A method helped me train my brain to think faster, and it gave me control over my language. Next came Step 4, the echo practice. This one changed my pronunciation completely. Every evening, I listened to short clips from YouTube, movies, interviews, or podcasts. I paused after each line and repeated exactly what I heard. Same speed, same tone, same emotion. If the speaker said, "I don't know what you're talking about," I copied it exactly, like an echo. At first, it was so hard, my mouth couldn't move like theirs, but I didn't give up. I repeated each sentence 10 times until it felt natural. Slowly, my accent softened, my intonation improved, and my English started to sound more alive. It wasn't about pretending to be native, it was about sounding confident and clear. The echo practice taught me to feel the rhythm of English, like music. Finally, I reached Step 5, the story method. This was my favorite. Every day, I chose 5 new words and created a short story using all of them. For example, excited, invitation, party, arrive, surprise. My story was simple. I was excited because I got an invitation to a big party. When I arrived, I got a huge surprise. It was my birthday party. I repeated the story 10 times, and those words stuck in my memory forever. I didn't just learn words, I learned how to live with them. The story gave them meaning, emotion, and context. It made learning fun again. These steps may sound small, but together, they changed everything. After 1 month, I noticed I was no longer scared of speaking. After 2 months, I could hold short conversations. I talked to my coworkers, to strangers online, even to myself without fear. After 3 months, my sentences became longer, smoother, and full of emotion. I stopped translating and started communicating. And after 5 months, something magical happened. I became fluent. Fluency didn't mean perfection. It meant freedom. I could express my thoughts clearly, share my ideas, and connect with people from different countries. I didn't have to hide behind silence anymore. I had a voice, my English voice. Looking back, what truly worked wasn't a special method or expensive class. It was the habit, the daily practice, the repetition, the belief that every word counts. I learned that English is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. You don't grow by studying more. You grow by using more. If you're listening to this and wondering where to start small. Write your own survival sentences. Talk to yourself. Ask and answer questions. Echo native speakers. Tell stories, even short ones. Don't wait for the perfect time. The perfect time is today. Every time you speak, even if you make mistakes, you're building the bridge toward fluency. And one day, you'll look back, just like I did, and realize that those small steps, those simple practices, were the moments that changed your life. Chapter 5. The Mindset and Motivation. Learning English changed my life, but not because I became perfect. It changed me because I stopped being afraid. I stopped waiting for the right moment. I created it. For years, I had believed that success came to people who had money, talent or luck, but I was wrong. Success came to people who kept showing up, even when they felt tired, scared, or lost. When I first started, I thought learning English was about memory, about knowing grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. But later, I realized it was about something deeper: mindset. You can have the best book, the best teacher, even the best accent, but if you don't believe in yourself, you will never move forward. The truth is, confidence comes before fluency. You don't become confident because you're fluent. You become fluent because you're confident enough to speak. There were days when I felt like giving up. I'd wake up early, practice for hours, and still feel stuck. I compared myself to others and thought, maybe I'm not good enough. But then I remembered why I started. I wasn't learning English just to pass a test. I was learning it to open a new life, to connect with people, to unlock doors that were once closed. Every time I wanted to quit, I reminded myself of that dream, the dream of being free to express who I am, anywhere in the world. That's when I understood something powerful. Discipline is stronger than motivation. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline stays. There were mornings I didn't want to study, but I did it anyway. There were nights when my eyes were heavy, but I still listened to one podcast, repeated one sentence, wrote one paragraph, and little by little, those small steps built a wall of strength inside me. The days I wanted to quit became the days I grew the most. You see, learning English is not only about your mouth, it's about your heart. Every time you speak, you're not just using words, you're sharing courage. You're saying, I'm not afraid to try. Even when people don't understand you, even when you make mistakes, you're still stronger than those who never try. That's something to be proud of. When I look back, I see that fear was my biggest teacher. Fear showed me what I needed to face. Fear told me where to grow. Every time I felt afraid to speak, I knew that was exactly the moment I had to open my mouth. I learned that the pain of practice lasts a short time, but the pain of regret can last forever. I didn't want to grow old wishing I had tried more. So I made a promise. No more fear, no more waiting. I would speak today, even if my voice shook. I want you to remember this. You don't need to live abroad to become fluent. You don't need expensive courses or perfect grammar. You only need 3 things: a plan, consistency, and belief. If you can stay patient when progress feels slow, if you can show up every day, even for 10 minutes, you will change your life. English is not about speed, it's about persistence. There were times I thought I wasn't improving, but others noticed before I did. One day, a friend said, "Jake, your English sounds so natural now." I smiled because I realized I hadn't even noticed the progress. It had become part of me. That's what happens when you stay consistent. You don't see the growth each day, but one morning you wake up and realize you've become the person you once dreamed of being. So now, when people ask me, "How long did it take you to learn English?" I tell them, it doesn't matter how long it takes. What matters is that you don't stop. Fluency is not a destination. It's a lifestyle. It's not about how fast you reach the top. It's about enjoying the climb. even when it's steep. Every sentence you say, every mistake you make, every moment you try, it all counts. Sometimes I still make small grammar mistakes, and I smile, because it reminds me that learning never ends. Perfection is not the goal, progress is. The real reward is not speaking English perfectly, it's becoming the kind of person who never gives up. So if you're listening to this right now, I want you to know, you can do it too. You don't need to wait until tomorrow. You can start right now, with what you have, where you are. Speak today, listen today, read something small, watch a video, repeat a line, write one thought in English. Do something, because action beats fear every time. Your future self is waiting for you, fluent, confident, and proud. The person you dream of becoming already exists inside you. You just have to keep going until you meet them. And when you finally do, you'll look back and realize it was never about English. It was about finding your courage, your consistency, your voice. So don't give up. You are closer than you think. The difference between failure and success is not talent. It's time, patience, and belief. Keep showing up. Keep speaking. Keep growing. Because one day, your voice will not only speak English, it will speak your story, your strength, and your truth. Thank you so much for watching Inspiring English. If this video inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and send it to someone who needs a little English motivation today. And of course, hit the bell icon so you never miss the next lesson that can change your English, and maybe even your life.